Welcome to the second segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, May the 5th. Our guest in this segment is Mehdri Nagari. And Mehdri, welcome Mehdri.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking about the so-called radicalization of young people into, I guess, a fundamentalist ideology. And we're going to talk about who's doing it.
Yes, Jack, we are hearing a narrative in the media that the Muslim youths are being, and the converts are being radicalized by forces that we don't know where they are. And I felt all the time it doesn't make sense. I don't think you can radicalize a person online only, unless there are other factors involved. Right now we have in British Columbia court, we have the case of Amanda Crowdy and John Natal, that the so-called the Canada Day bombers in 2013, and July 2nd, they were arrested by RCMP and integrated National Security Enforcement Team, they were accused of planning a bombing on the July 1st in the legislature lawns, which supposedly was going to kill many people. And they were charged by offenses knowingly facilitating a terrorist activity and possession of an explosive substance. But RCMP at the same time, they said that RCMP claimed that they were inspired by Al-Qaeda ideology, and said there was no evidence to indicate that the two had support or were acting at the direction of a terrorist group.
They said that?
They said that. That was plastered in the media on July 2nd.
That's not true.
2nd and 3rd. But what we came out to understand what's really happened, the whole thing was set up by RCMP and CSIS. They approached these two, let's say who they are. Amanda Crowdy was about 29, 30 years old. John Natal was about 39 years old. Both of them were on methadone program. They were addicts, and they were trying to get rid of their addiction. They were on social assistance, welfare. So they were living in this basement in Syra. They really didn't have any money, they were in really trouble. Amanda Crowdy was saying that she was vomiting, sometimes 15, 16 times a day, and they were on this methadone and other pills. Amanda was. So they were in really bad shape. At the same time, let me quote one of his friend, Darrell Nelson, which was a close friend of John Natal. He said, about 5 or 6 months ago, this is on July, he's saying, July 2013, he was kicked out of mosque. Around the same time, met Muslim brothers, start working in a furniture store, belonged to one of these Muslim brothers, delivering packages to business suit kind of guys. Personally, he quote, personally, I think he was hanging out with wrong people, and they screwed with his head a little bit. He was always a few screws loose from drug abuse and everything else. He went through so he was very easily swayed. So he was a impressionable man, a 39-year-old with the mentality of 16-year-old, And Amanda was again very impressionable young woman, wanted to be belonged to.
Of course, everybody does, and that's what the RCMP offered them.
And here is the two, and the Natal was converted to Islam about a year before, I think, and they were kicked out of the mosque because they were not. The people didn't like what they were saying. So unfortunately for the mosque, kicking people out instead of helping them, and RCMP come to their lives and change them. They suddenly become secretive One of another friend said Ashley Volapati told CBC News the couple started exhibiting odd behavior about 6 months ago, becoming distant, declining to socialize, and selling off Natal guitars. Natal was a musician, and he loved his guitars, and he suddenly sold everything. So it was really changed when the Muslim brother, which were cops, got into contacting them. And then we see in the court, you know, it's amazing things is happening. For example, in the court, they ask, in one of the tapes that RCMP has, the Natal is saying that we are a student and the RCMP is the cop, the undercover cop is the master. The RCMP playing the role of a jihadi businessman, you know, yes, from the area. So they set up everything. If I have time, I just want to quote one, Ian Mulgrew of Vancouver Sun, reporting very well actually on this issue, calling the whole thing a tragic comic drama. And he said in one paragraph, everything was orchestrated and controlled by RCMP and local agency, who even staged a phony meth lab incident in the couple neighborhood, complete with hazmat response team, in order to go and put some wiring in their apartment.
So this is being said by the Vancouver Sun reporter?
The reporter from the court. This is from April 22nd of this year. And
the problem is a lot of people believe kind of the official story.
And the RCMP guy has been on the stand for more than about 2 months now, since February. And he is he's very evasive. He's not answering the question right. Yeah. And he's trying to establish that they had this plan, while when they ask Natal, whose plan was this, you know, in the tapes that they have. And he's saying, it was all of us. We all chip in, you know. Yeah. So, and they put lots of pressure on them, you know. These people didn't have any money. But what the RCMP does, the RCMP go buy suit for him, taking them on the trips, buy them grocery and cigarette, taking them to Whistler, to Kelowna, to Victoria. What do you expect? Two people that were living in this basement, having no friend, not much friendship, and they were poor, dirt poor, didn't have money to take a bus. And now RCMP is coming and giving them lots of money. And now they created the scene, and they call this terror.
Yeah.
And they pat each other on the back. Oh, we caught them. Yeah. We saved the people. Yeah. And you know, the real message is that the Muslims are coming, yeah, and they are here, yeah, and not only their Muslim kids are dangerous, endangering our society, but also the white kids that they can convert, yeah, and make them enemy of the state.
And folks, that's where we're at right now. The RCMP, acting, I guess, on the directions of Stephen Harper and his government, are creating false terror in our backyard and using it to terrify us and change everything.
So this was one case.
This was one. Now we've got only 10 minutes to do 3.
Really?
Yes.
Holy moly. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm the one who was supposed to be reminding you.
You're supposed to remind me. Okay.
I was blinking my eyes rapidly.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah, please.
In another case, we had the case of the Damien Clearmont, a 21-year-old that was executed by Free Syrian Army rebels, that we are supplying arms to them. We have been, the West have been supplying arms to them in the city of Aleppo in January of 2014.
So this was a young guy who went from Canada to Syria,
yes,
to join the Free Syrian
Damien
Army.
Was a young man with mental illness. He was diagnosed as being bipolar. He quit school. He dropped out of school, and he was in bad shape, depressed. He became a Muslim when he was 18, and his mother said that Christine Boudreau his mother said that I felt that I got my son back. He was behaving very well after he became Muslim, and he was socializing, and I thought I got my son back. But suddenly he moved from that part of town to another part and go to another mosque. And suddenly he changed. He becomes secretive again. And in November of 2012, he went to his mom and said he is going to go to Cairo, Egypt, to learn Arabic. And that wasn't suspicious things for his mother. People go to learn Arabic in Arab country. And she's a French background, so she's much more contact with these things. He went to, so he left in November of 2012. And in January of 2013, CSIS go to Christine Boudreau, his mother, and telling them that your son is not in Egypt, he is in Syria. And we have been surveilling him. He was under our surveillance for about 2 years. So the mother is saying, why didn't you tell me any sooner? Why didn't you come and tell me? You were surveilling him. You saw who is radicalizing him. Why are you not telling us? And she blames CSIS. She has 2 programs. One is called Hayat Canada Family Support, that she worked with the woman Danielle Kohler of Germany to stop radicalization of the youths. And another program, Mother for Life, here in Canada. And guess what? Neither RCMP nor CSIS nor government help at all funding any of these programs. Why? If you are for de-radicalizing people, who better can influence the families than a mother that went through it? So they are not doing this. Another case that I'd like to talk about is the case that came out to light in late February 25th. The CBC reporter Natalie Clancy wrote an article on CBC website. ISIS recruited Canadian woman to join fighting Syria.
Okay, so once again, this was the headline in CBC.
CBC, ISIS recruited Canadian woman to join fight in Syria.
Okay.
So what the article called the woman Aisha and her sister Rabia. Her sister is telling the CBC reporter that the sister that went to Syria dropped out of a school and wanted to learn Quran online. There was this woman in Edmonton teaching her Quran, and we believe she radicalized her. We didn't know what's happening, the sister here is saying, and we know that before she left Canada, one day we saw her, she's gone. She went to Edmonton, fly to Edmonton, then from Edmonton to Toronto, to Spain, Barcelona, Spain, and to Turkey. And she said that we believe that this woman in Edmonton provided her with the funding to travel. So the question is this: why the CSIS? And CSIS told the family that their daughter was under surveillance by CSIS for another 2 years, for 2 years before.
Is everybody under surveillance?
Everybody's under surveillance. So the question is why they didn't tell. Why they didn't tell the family their daughter is in danger. And the most important question is that why now that they know the woman in Edmonton was the radicalizer, why is she not being arrested? In fact, she went to a mosque in Edmonton and were kicked out of the mosque, this woman, because she was trying to recruit people.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like you're saying, and I wouldn't disagree with you, that the government of Canada is behind.
They are somehow involved, and they are not answering any question, and the question even is not being raised by our politician
or
and the opposition.
So what are the questions?
The question is, what do they know? We like to see the files for Damien Clearmont and Aisha and other so-called radicalized people that left. Because when Damien Clearmont was so-called radicalized, he was with few other people, like Farah Sheridan, like Salman Ashrafi, like Gordon Brothers. All of them went to Syria. And meanwhile, the CISs were surveilling the whole thing. So why didn't they stop? The last issue that I want to talk about, the case I want to talk about, is the issue that came out in March 12, 13 here in Canada, hit the news, and then suddenly stopped. You know, we haven't heard anything from it. On February 28, the authorities in Turkey arrested a man that were helping 3 teenage British girls to go to Syria, you know. And these British girls were about 15, 2 of them 15-year-old, and 1 of them 16-year-old.
It was a huge story, worldwide story.
It was a huge story. And the Europeans were blaming Turkey's government for not stopping this process through their country. You know, they were transferring these kids through their country. So on February 28th, suddenly Turkish government arrested a man, and this man was said under interrogation that he was working for the CISs, and he said that he was a dentist from Syria. He went to Canadian embassy in Jordan to get asylum. The Canadian brought him to Canada for a short period of time and taught him things about what they want him to do, and they promised him citizenship. So they sent him back, and he was arrested with their cell phone and computer that Canadian authority provided him. In his computer, there is evidence that he was getting money from a Western Union account that were giving him between $800 and $1,500 many times. It showed in his passport that he left Turkey to go to Amman, Jordan for many times to give information to Canadian authorities.
So the allegation is that the Canadian government was paying a CSIS agent who smuggled these girls from London to Turkey.
Take these children, because they are 2 15 and 1 16.
And then link them up with ISIS.
Yes. So is this child trafficking? Is this sexual abuse of children? Because these children are going to a war area and being among a bunch of killers. For what? And also, there was in another article that came out at that time from French news agency, that they had evidence. They said the Turkish government, Turkish media have printed evidence that he was getting money from the Western country and transferring them through the jewelers in this southern city of Turkey, sending the money to Raqqa in Syria and giving it to ISIS. They were financing. Why? We have this question. The opposition and politicians are not asking.
And where's the media? Why doesn't the media tell this story?
See, the media, all my information comes from media.
Yeah.
But these issues were not discussed in the news.
Exactly.
And the people don't have time to go and read carefully, you know, and do research.
We're out of time. Thank you so much. The issue is of fundamental importance, folks. I don't know what we can do about it. Thank you, Mehdi, and thanks for watching Citizens Forum.